What's up, guys? Theo here doing a prediction for Anthony Hernandez versus Roman Kopylov. Right now, Anthony Hernandez is a minus 220 favorite, and the comeback on Roman Kopylov is plus 160 on DraftKings. Guys, this is a really sick matchup, and I kind of like Anthony Hernandez in this spot. I feel like he is the rightful favorite here, and I'll explain why. Basically, when you look at these guys' tape, these guys are kind of mirrors of each other's styles, right? We have Roman Kopylov, who is a good striker, and he's kind of an attritional striker. He's not really like an early, really explosive one-round knockout threat. He kind of likes to build up, punish his opponents over time, and kind of be more technical and wait for an opening, wait for them to make a mistake, and then he capitalizes on it, and he manages to knock people out. He has a lot of later fight knockouts rather than like early knockouts. And then you have Anthony Hernandez, who is kind of the same on the ground. He's kind of an attritional wrestler, grappler, right? He doesn't like sub a lot of people really early or anything like that, but what he likes to do is get people down, and he has extremely proficient MMA grappling. This guy is probably up there in terms of his ability to actually utilize jiu-jitsu and wrestling in an MMA setting. What I mean by that is you don't see him using really high-level wrestling to hold people down. You don't see him using high-level jiu-jitsu to get behind people, hold them, lay on top of them. He's not really doing that. He's kind of mixing everything together very well. And over time, he just wears you down, beats on you. He never stops hitting you, never stops trying to submit you. So both of these guys are kind of very similar. And this is almost like a super high-level version of like a traditional striker-grappler matchup. But the thing that we see from Kopylov is that in every single one of his fights, even the ones he eventually wins, he struggles when people try to take him down. I don't think that he has really bad takedown defense. I don't even think he has really bad grappling per se, even though he has been submitted once by Carl Robeson, which is a pretty bad look. But he does stuff takedowns, and he does manage to kind of like get people underneath him and stay on top of them. But he's not he's not great when he goes to the ground. He's not super reliable. You don't want his fights to go to the ground. Whereas Anthony Hernandez, that's all he wants to do. He wants to take you down. And he's better at taking people down than Roman Kopylov is at knocking people out, if that makes sense. So when you watch Anthony Hernandez fight, at no point in a lot of his fights is he really ever standing with people. I can't think of a stretch of more than maybe a minute in any of his fights where he actually stood there and allowed somebody with a striking advantage to sit there and work. He just doesn't do it, right? Anthony Hernandez is always pushing people up against the cage, extremely physical. He picks people up, dumps them down. When he gets people, he's always on top of them, moving around them, trying to submit them, getting his arms around their neck. He's constantly moving and wrestling and flowing around them. It's a very high-level mixture of jiu-jitsu and wrestling. And in an MMA setting, I don't think he's like super elite at either one of those, but I think he blends them all together very well. His striking is not great, again, but it's not what you want to see. You don't want to see him striking, similar to the way you don't want to see Kopylov grappling. But it is serviceable enough to get his opponent against the cage or to draw his opponent into a situation where he can topple them. He's very good at staying out of striking exchanges, whereas Kopylov is really not. Whereas Hernandez, even when he is on the feet trying to get a fight down, he still looks comfortable on the feet. Kopylov looks like he's panicking every time somebody shoots on him or gets him down or anything. And that's because he's had so many bad experiences with the grappling so far. So, I really like Anthony Hernandez here, especially because when Anthony Hernandez shoots in on people, when his takedowns do get stuffed, he's very good about using that to make an opening for a jiu-jitsu transition or try to counter wrestle them, right? When people stuff Anthony Hernandez's shots, he doesn't just give up, get back, and go right back to what he was doing. He tries to use that. He tries to kind of play with your momentum, get around you. He uses opponents' stuffing of his shots to set up more grappling and more transitions. So I just kind of feel like he has more paths to victory here, because Kopylov takes a long time to warm up on the feet to people. Like I said, he's not knocking people out early. If he wants to win this fight, that's what he needs to do to Anthony Hernandez. He needs to punish Anthony Hernandez quickly, and he needs to get him out of there. Because if he doesn't, he's going to leave way too much room and way too much space for a guy like Anthony to come in, drag him down, put work on him. And we saw in the Edmen Shahbazyan fight, Anthony Hernandez had him down, and at the end of the second round, Edmen Shahbazyan got up, stood up out of a transition once the bell rang, and the guy's body was covered in red welts, like he had just a massive breakout, like he was poisoned or something, just from Anthony Hernandez just constantly pounding on his body, knees on the ground, elbows on the ground, just punches from guard, punches from mount. Anthony just never stops chipping away at you, hurting you on the ground, and because of that, I like him to win here. I feel like his win condition is just higher. If he's able to take Roman down, how much energy is that going to take away from Roman? Is Roman going to have the energy once he escapes the grappling, if he can, to get back up and keep working to try and attritionally knock Anthony Hernandez out? I mean, Anthony is not going to sit here and just let Roman attack his body, attack his legs, attack his head. He's not going to do that. He hasn't done that in any of his fights. He's very reliable to push people against the cage and make things ugly and make it a fight on the ground, which is exactly what Roman Kopylov doesn't want. So unless Kopylov manages to, like I say, hurt him and get him out of there quickly, I think Kopylov is going to be worn down and potentially a late submission or a decision win for Anthony Hernandez here. So I think he's the rightful favorite. I do think the line is too wide, minus 220, plus 160. I think it should be lined a little bit closer than that. I don't think Anthony Hernandez in this spot is quite worth that minus 220 yet. I think if he beats Roman Kopylov, I feel like you could start lining him like that against high-level guys. But I wouldn't straight bet Anthony Hernandez here because, you know, I just don't want to see him get TKO'd by Roman Kopylov, who is supposedly some kind of sambo player or hand-to-hand combat guy, so he should have studied grappling, but when he fights, he doesn't really look like it. So I favor the guy who is doing reliable, modern MMA work to the dude that is kind of relying on attritional damage. So yeah, give me Anthony Hernandez, guys, here. Keep it locked in. More picks coming later this week.